All right, away we go.
All right.
Hello and welcome to episode 41 of the Hockey Nuts podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going good, Wayne. Once again, good to be with you and talk about hockey tonight.
We've got more playoff hockey to talk about than you can shake a stick at tonight.
Very true.
We're down to three teams now in the NHL playoffs, so we got to catch you up on all that. The World Championships actually wrapped up over the weekend, so we'll have all the details on that tournament. And, of course, with fewer teams and fewer games to talk about, it gives us a little bit more time to talk about some of the other playoffs going on, and we're going to talk some American Hockey League and ECHL and Memorial Cup tonight. So with all that, even though it does sound like a lot, I think we're in for another show that's a little shorter than we have done in the past. And before we get going, of course, we got to remind everybody that you can subscribe to the show by finding us on iTunes or on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Player.fm, and any Android or Apple app that you may be using to round up all the podcasts. If you're already listening to podcasts, you know which app I'm talking about. And of course, there's hundreds of them out there. So,
Right.
but if you don't do podcast apps on your phone or on your device, you can actually go right to our websites or a couple different websites to listen to us. First and foremost, you can listen to us right on our website at thehockeynuts.com. And you can listen to us at thehockeywriters.com under their podcast channel. And that's another great source for hockey news and content. Not only podcasts, but there's a lot of articles written daily. Tons and tons of content put out daily on that website. And as far as the show itself, of course, Steve and I love to do this podcast every week. We're so much so, we're going to continue doing it all summer long. But it does actually cost us a little bit of money every month to produce a show, and we're always looking ways for you to help support us in our little endeavor here. Even though we're going to continue doing it no matter what, but we have set up a couple ways that you can support us financially. And the first and foremost, we have affiliate links to two different websites right now set up. One is at Amazon.com. The other one's at HockeyMonkey.com. And if you use either of those two sites on a regular basis, or even if you only use them once a year, if you were to come over to our website at thehockeynuts.com, click on the banner on the right-hand side of the page for the site that you want, you can go and click on those links. It'll take you over to those websites, and then any purchases you make at those websites, a little bit of a kickback will come back to us. And the best thing of all is the purchase that you make over there doesn't cost you a dime more than it would otherwise. So we do appreciate those who have used those links in the past, and we appreciate anybody who's going to use them in the future. And one site that I came across this week in doing research, and we're going to go ahead and get it set up, is a site called SeatGeek.com. And I know, Steve, you've used it in the past. I use it a lot. When I go to Hurricanes games in particular, I usually buy my tickets through SeatGeek. And
Yep.
they do have an affiliate program, and we will be joining that.
That's great news.
As far as I know, anyway. I just need to go ahead and do the work to set it up. So, and in the future we will have SeatGeek as an option too. And just my experience with SeatGeek is basically what they do is they're kind of like the Trivago of ticket site. So they show you all the tickets that are available for resale online. So, but you could see StubHub tickets there. You could see all the different websites that are out there that sell tickets themselves. SeatGeek basically takes all those websites, aggregates them all together, so you get to see a broad range of all the tickets available. And I always tend to find the best prices there at SeatGeek. So I used them a lot in the past, and have saved a ton of money on buying Hurricanes tickets by using their website. So,
Yeah.
so we will have an affiliate relationship set up with them at some point. Can't promise exactly when, but we will be doing that soon. And as far as non-monetarily supporting us, obviously you can support us. If you can't do it financially through us, you can certainly support us by sharing the show with all the hockey fans that you know. If you have the iTunes app on your computer or device, subscribe to our show using that, even though you may listen to it somewhere else. That helps us rise in the rankings there in iTunes and helps us, become more visible. We're already pretty high on the rankings for the search term NHL and the search term hockey. We are on the first page of each of those, which makes us both very happy. But we can always improve our rankings there in any way we can. And if you folks subscribe through iTunes, that does help us rise in the rankings, help us get more eyeballs to our podcast. And, of course, anytime you see our content, like, comment, and share wherever you see us on social media pages. And, of course, we want to invite you to get involved with the show. We're just a couple of hockey fans, so we love interacting with the audience. And best way to reach us probably would be through our Twitter handles. Mine is at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504man. That's usually where the quickest way to get in touch with us is right through there. You can also email us at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. We do have a voicemail box if you want to leave a voicemail for us at 919-960-1718. And, of course, we have our Facebook page. You can interact with us there as well at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And, of course, we do have a YouTube channel. I've got a shortcut set up for that. It's at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. And of course, on the Facebook site, we do live stream the recording of our podcast each week. So if you want to watch us live recording it, we certainly invite you to do so by going to the facebook.com/thehockeynuts, and you can watch us live there. So other than that, let's get going on the news of the week.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Excited real quickly, though, Wayne, about SeatGeek.
Yeah.
My experience with them has been awesome. It hasn't just been good. They've been great people to work with, and I've had to have a phone conversation or two with them. I guess they're in New York City. And they return my phone calls. So that's a good company to get your tickets through.
Yep.
And you're always going to get the best deal that they have. Using their system is extremely easy, and it's a good thing to keep abreast of.
Yep.
When hockey season, especially when one of my favorite days of the year when the season isn't going on, is when the new schedule comes out. And
right.
I wish it's the same day every year, but it's not.
No.
Comes out, July, end of June, July, sometime in July. Usually the schedule's out.
Yeah, usually right after free agency starts, I think, is when they roll out the schedule. Yeah.
And you go online and you check out the games, what dates they're playing. Sometimes there's home and homes that you might be interested in attending, or et cetera, et cetera. SeatGeek is quickly in line with the NHL, and you can find out ticket prices as soon as they start coming over the wire. And usually in September, you can start kind of taking a look at things. If the box office of the team that you support has tickets available for the game, generally speaking, Wayne, and you correct me if I'm wrong, SeatGeek has prices available for those games based on the ticket output. Once they become available and they're able to get a block of tickets, I guess, that the team puts up for sale.
Well, most of the seats that I find on SeatGeek are actually folks that are, like, for example, season ticket holders that are selling their tickets.
That's true. That's true.
And most of the tickets you buy are electronic. I've literally bought tickets from them 10 minutes before walking into the arena, where you basically You go in, you buy the tickets, you immediately get an email right after you make your purchase with a link that has the tickets. You go in, you print them out, and you get in the car and you go to the game. It's just, it's
Yeah.
just that simple.
It's absolutely fascinating, and if it wasn't for you, Wayne, I wouldn't have used it. But the one real quick experience, my wife printed it out on a color printer, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. I got it downloaded on my cell phone, and I can actually go to the game. You know how technology has improved. You don't buy a ticket anymore. You just get it downloaded on your cell phone. I printed it out on my wife's printer, so we had a hard copy. We went to the game. And lo and behold, that was the night where it was from a block of tickets that the Carolina Hurricanes had made available. The game was actually the snow that day, just about, there's very few fans in the arena, upper arena. So our tickets were in the upper arena. They moved us to a block of tickets in the lower arena. They gave us seats 7-8 rows off the ice.
Wow.
So I really am very thankful for SeatGeek. I've had great experiences buying tickets from them, and I'm encouraged by this. That's great news.
Yep. So yeah, I actually didn't tell Steve about this, but it's just something I came across this week when I was doing some research as to some other affiliate relationships that we could get out there, get out to our listeners some of the different things that you folks who listen to us use, and what more do hockey fans do than they buy hockey tickets? So I figured, let's look in to see if SeatGeek has an affiliate relationship or affiliate program, and lo and behold, they do. So at least for now, they do. I don't know if they're planning on getting rid of it anytime soon, but for the time being, they do certainly have a program, and we're gonna jump in on that one. So
excellent.
All right, well, let's talk some NHL. We are down to, we're in the conference finals, of course, and there was 2 series still going as of the last week or so since we last recorded. You have the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Ottawa Senators in the East, and you had the Anaheim Ducks against the Nashville Predators out west. So let's start with the West this week, since that series is actually done. So as we went through, we talked about the first 3 games in last week's podcast. And if you want to hear our take on that, obviously you want to listen to the last week's podcast. So let's pick it up where we left off there. Game 4, Anaheim. Of course, going into Game 4, the Predators had a 2-1 lead. So Game 4 actually went to Anaheim, 3-2 in overtime, and they tied up the series. That was last Thursday. That was actually not long after we recorded the last episode. Game 5 went to Nashville, 3-1, giving the Predators a 3-2 lead, and that was a huge win for them in Anaheim on that one. Was that in Anaheim? No.
What game?
Yes. Game 5 was in Anaheim.
Game 5 was in Anaheim. That's correct.
And Game 6 was Monday night, and Nashville came out and won that one, finishing Anaheim off. Nashville won that one 6-3. So Nashville takes the series 4-2, and they move on to the Stanley Cup final for the first time in franchise history.
Yep. I'm going to tell you right now, Game 5 was the backbreaker. Anaheim had this. I really believe, the way I look at this, Anaheim had a good shot when they won that game in Nashville. And they didn't carry over any momentum really to speak of. The fans in the Honda Center were kind of lackluster. When Nashville seized control in Game 5, it was like the air went out of the building. And for a long period, I did not look at that as a Stanley Cup game. It was more like an NHL regular season game in Anaheim, with the team having really to win that game, so that they went back to Nashville, and forcing Nashville to win. I don't know how you felt about it. But
no, I felt the air come out of the arena about the same time you did when Nashville went up 2-1.
Yep.
In that Game 5, the crowd just went silent. It was like they knew, because it was relatively late in the game when they did score. I don't remember the exact time, but it was pretty late. There was only a few minutes left in the third, wasn't there?
I can't venture a guess on that one. It was,
Well,
I believe, it's in the third period.
I'm pulling it up here. Yeah, it was 11:01 of the third when Nashville went up.
Right.
So there was a little less than 9 minutes left in the game when Nashville went up 2-1 in that one, and it seemed like from that point on, Nashville had all the energy and Anaheim had nothing. And the injury to the Anaheim goaltender Gibson didn't help the situation any.
No,
because they were playing Jonathan Bernier in net pretty much the rest of the way at that point. So, but I don't think you can blame Anaheim losing the series on that injury. I mean, the whole team seemed to be.
When that goal went in, it's like an energy malfunction hit the Anaheim Ducks and the fans.
Yep.
It completely stopped whatever they were on in that series. That was the end of it. And Nashville seized control of the Western Conference at that point, and I had no doubt they were going to win that last game, and that was the end of the series. And I really was hoping that Anaheim would make it really tough. You and I are pulling for Nashville, of course, because they've never won a Stanley Cup. It's interesting, great to watch their fans and all that, but I was really hoping it was going to be a tough go of it, that Anaheim was going to make a tough go of it. Once that goal went in the net, it was as if that was the end of it.
Yep.
And hard to think back to a time where that's happened before with that much time left to go in the game. That was just my thoughts of it. It was great to watch them win that game in Nashville.
Yep.
To prove that it could be done this year.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, it was a huge moment for Anaheim to beat Nashville in Game 4, and it seemed like when that happened, I'm like, you know what? I think Anaheim may have this, but then Game 5, it could have gone either way, and then all of a sudden Nashville goes up 2-1, and then of course they get the empty netter at the end. That, and it just took all the wind out of the Anaheim sails, and they just never recovered after that.
That's exactly. They could never recover after that goal. They could never recover, and you could tell it. You could watch the game. You could feel it. You could sense it from the announcers. There was no fan presence after that game.
Right.
It seemed like a regular season game.
And then Anaheim, of course, did the thing that happens. They were pressing, trying to get the tying goal, and they just couldn't get it past Rinne at all. And then in the last minute of the game, of course, you had the regular old breakdown of just players getting stupid at that point. I mean, in the last 30 seconds of the game, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 penalties, 8 penalties combined on two teams, and obviously it was just it was Anaheim just trying to make a statement, so to speak, for Game 6, and then Game 6 comes along, and Nashville is the one that came out and made a statement.
Just rolled.
It just a dominating performance from start to finish. Anaheim could never really get anything going. Yes, they did come back and tie the game 3-3 at one point, but shortly after that, I don't think it was all of 5 minutes later, 6 minutes later, after Anaheim tied the game before Nashville was right back up on top.
That's right.
And then late in the game, and Anaheim pulled their goalie with almost 3 minutes to go in the game.
Late, yep.
Which tells me they didn't have much confidence in scoring on Rinne. If you're only down by 1 and you're pulling your goalie that early, and then of course Nashville got the 2 empty netters to bring it from 4-3 to 6-3. So,
Right.
But the place when they got that fifth goal, the crowd went nuts. And I don't know about you. I don't know if you saw any of the game, but it seemed to me the Nashville crowd spent more time during that game standing than they did sitting in their seats. I know certainly the last probably 5-6 minutes of the game, nobody in the arena was sitting down.
Right.
And it reminds me of, now I wasn't there for it. We weren't even living in this area, but I remember watching it on TV when we were living in Maine. It reminds me of 2006 when the Hurricanes won their Stanley Cup. The entire Game 7 that year, and I haven't seen anything like it since. I don't think anybody sat down the entire Game 7.
Yeah.
When Carolina won their cup. And the Nashville fans were the same way the other night.
Right.
They were into it. They were loud. They were, I mean, can't say enough good things about the Nashville fans. How great of group of people they've been this year.
They have come out and willed their team to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep.
And I don't know. You want to hear? I mean, we have to talk about this other series, but I don't know that Ottawa stands a chance. And they might win against Pittsburgh, but I don't think they stand a chance against Nashville. I really don't. I think that crowd in Nashville is just going to be overwhelming. Yeah. I don't even think Erik Karlsson, as great as he's played, I'm sitting here. That's my opinion, and it's probably 9 times out of 10 I'm wrong. But I just don't see that. I just don't see it. That is not. It will be a better series, I think, if Pittsburgh gets in, and Pittsburgh's going to have a hell of a time against that team. They really that team Nashville matches up perfectly to take Pittsburgh's bacon, man, because that defense they have is going to be swarming. It's going to be tough. This game tomorrow night is going to be an interesting one. Yep. You'll be able to make a lot of – it's going to make the Stanley Cups really fun,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a fun final. I'm very happy to see Nashville get in there. It's going to be fun watching that city go through the Stanley Cup fever that Raleigh went through, 10, 11 years ago now. It was very similar atmosphere here when Carolina won their cup to the way Nashville is. Hockey is obviously relatively new to the two cities. They haven't had it for a long, long time, like your New Yorks, your Bostons, your Torontos. Those cities have had hockey longer than everyone's been alive in those cities. But the fans in Nashville, Raleigh, the so-called non-traditional markets don't remember. They actually still remember a time when there was no hockey. But the Nashville fans are into it. Back in 06, the Carolina fans were into it. Not so much now, but those fans will come back when the Hurricanes start winning again. So, but Nashville's in their heyday right now. This is their time. So, and like you said, I of the two teams in the East that are remaining, I would give Pittsburgh the better shot at beating Nashville over Ottawa, but right now I don't see either one of them beating Nashville right now.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh will give them a better series, but ultimately I think this is Nashville's year to lose at this point. But we'll see.
That's right. You never know.
So, but let's talk about the East, because Nashville is still sitting on the sidelines, getting healthy, waiting to find out who their opponent's going to be.
That's
right. Is it
going
to be Pittsburgh? Is it going to be Ottawa? I thought for sure last night we were going to have our answer, but we didn't get our answer last night. And just to take you back to Game 4, which is the last, or we covered up to Game 3 in the last podcast, so Game 4 was the next game. Going into Game 4, the Senators had a 2-1 series lead. Pittsburgh won Game 4, tied the series up 2-2. That was a 3-2 game. On Sunday, Pittsburgh blew out Ottawa 7-0.
Yep.
And Pittsburgh led came back and took the 3-2 series lead. I thought last night for sure Pittsburgh was going to finish them off, but lo and behold, Ottawa still got a little bit of life. Ottawa came out last night and won the game. And my show notes actually don't have the score. Do you have the score in front of you?
It was 3-2, I believe. 3-2.
That's right.
Ottawa won last night.
Yep.
And the thing that jumps out at me from this is Ottawa is very good. They're extremely good because they got shellacked by the Rangers too.
Yep.
They are good with their short-term memory. They can drop a game that they lose 7-0, and I don't know if you watched that game.
2-1. 2-1 was the final score last night.
I'm sorry. I knew it was. Anyways, my mistake.
Yep.
But they're very good at blocking out. Hey, it's one game. It's over. We lost. Doesn't matter whether we lost 7-0 or 1-0.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they're good at that. They can put it behind them, move right on, and play. Come out the next game and have no problems. Mentally, Ottawa has surprised me this year.
They certainly have. Yep.
They have been very good mentally, up to the challenge against Pittsburgh. And that's a mental, when you play the Penguins, and Wayne, you know this, they are an exceptionally good team with the caliber and the talent of the players they have. But they are one of the best, if not the best, in the NHL. They're up there with the Chicago Blackhawks mentally when you play them.
Yep.
They are a mental powerhouse, and they know how to break you on the ice in a 7-game series particularly.
Yep.
It's very much a mental war, and Ottawa has been up to the task. I've been very impressed with how they played. That's my opinion, but I think they stand a chance tomorrow night against Pittsburgh. They could come in there and win that game. I wouldn't put it past them. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm sitting here still wondering how in the world we lost to them 4-2. But
well,
and
I watched a lot of last night's game. I didn't see every last second of it, but there was one thing that jumped out at me last night, in particular, and I'm wondering if Ottawa is going to continue the same tactics as they did last night. I don't know if you've noticed, but they were literally inside the sweater of Sidney Crosby last night.
Yeah,
I mean they were all over him, right towing the line between legal and dirty and cheap and they even crossed the line in my mind a few times. In particular, there was a couple of things that Dion Phaneuf in particular did a few things to Sidney Crosby that I thought should have been penalized, but they didn't, and it kind of surprised me a little bit because you and I have both been complaining all playoff long at how the Stars on Pittsburgh, they're getting the calls. Well, last night, Ottawa was getting the calls, or the non-calls, as it were. And the refs were just letting the two teams play last night. It's an old hockey phrase, letting them play. It annoys a lot of people, but that's essentially what was happening.
Right.
The referees, for the most part, put their whistle away. They only called the stuff that was obvious, or the stuff they had to call, like that too many men on the ice that Pittsburgh had in the third. That was pretty obvious. There were 6 guys, and they were all involved in the play for several seconds there.
Yeah.
So obviously you got to call those.
Right.
But I mean, they were just draped all over Sidney Crosby. They wouldn't let him do anything. Anytime he was in front of the net, they were harassing him. He couldn't do anything last night.
Right.
And so basically, the Ottawa's taking the stance. Well, okay, we're going to shut down your guy. And we dare the rest of you to beat us.
Right.
And then once Ottawa got the lead in that game, they just immediately went into that suffocating trap that they do.
Yeah.
Once they get the lead, and they scored 134 into the third period. That's it.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh essentially had 18 minutes to try to tie the game, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And they threw everything they had at Ottawa. I mean,
Isn't it something? We're sitting here talking about a team, Ottawa, who really never factored into our discussions very much at all.
Nope.
During the NHL season, whatsoever.
Nope, not much at all. Yeah.
And here they are, one win away from the Stanley Cup Finals. If you had told me that they would have won,
and they may very well win that game.
Game
7, you don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen with Game 7.
I can promise you that they will be out there on the ice all over Sidney Crosby again.
Yep.
I just think that's what's going to happen. And listen, if they leave Evgeny Malkin or Phil Kessel open to roam and do what they do, they don't need Sidney Crosby. So.
Yep. They got plenty of other weapons. They got Gensel, that young rookie that's been red hot this year. They've got they've got Malkin, they've got Kessel. You name it. They've got. You got Chris Kunitz, who can still put the puck. The team's loaded with talent.
Right. That's right. Banged up as they are.
Yeah, banged up as they are. Yeah, their defensive core is banged up a bit, and of course, and as far as goaltending's concerned, they got Matt Murray, who you obviously can't blame the game on him last night. He only allowed 2 goals last night. That should be enough to win on most nights, but Pittsburgh only scored 1, so they got 46 shots on net, but they only scored 1 goal.
That's correct. Yeah. You're absolutely right, Wayne.
But Matt Murray played well for the most part last night. He played very well in Game 5. He didn't even have to. Pittsburgh scored 7 goals in Game 5. He could have allowed in 6 and still won the game. But and if he goes down again, they bring Fleury back in. Pittsburgh's just completely loaded to the gills with talent. Mm-hmm. And, we all fully expect that they're going to win the game tomorrow night. It is in their building. They're going to have their fans behind them. They're going to have all this. But Ottawa has Canada behind them.
That's right.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Wayne, that's really it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you just hit on what it is. It's that entire country of Canada, as much as possible, with the exception of the people in Montreal that are pulling for PK Subban. The rest of that country, probably a lot of that country, is pulling for Ottawa. Not because they like Ottawa, but because that's who Canada has in the race right now.
Right.
And I think that's a good point. I think what you just said there is the reason.
Yeah. All of Canada's behind them, and you've got even though there's been a lot of reports of the games that are not selling out in Ottawa, and I've read into a little bit of that, and there's a lot going on with the dynamics around the city of Ottawa that's preventing those games from being sold out, and you can't really blame it on, at least the way I understand it, you can't blame it on the lack of interest in all of this. It's just the general gist of the story that I got is Ottawa is a city of government workers, and most of these government workers cannot afford to pay the prices that they're commanding at this level of hockey.
Right.
So that is why the Ottawa Arena is not selling out completely. It's just it's a government city, and I don't know. I don't know if it's excuses or what. I don't know the full story, so I can't, begin to claim that I know what's going on there. But the people that don't live in Ottawa, that are out there, they're supporting that team as much as possible. And they've got the country of Canada behind them. And like you said, there is a contingent of Montreal fan. Not all of them are like that. Yeah. Some of them want to see PK fall flat on his face.
That's right.
But the ones that are still mad that Montreal traded away PK, they want PK to win that cup and bring that cup back to Montreal and just stick it in the ownership's, stick it in
And
their face and
and
really.
Wayne, he's gonna do that if they win. If they win, he will do that.
Oh
He'll bring
yeah. Oh, he'll bring it back to
Cup will be
Montreal. Yep.
going down the streets of Montreal, and
Well, I don't know if he'll parade it, but the cup will make an appearance. PK may get 2 days with the cup, one for himself and his family and his hometown, because I know his hometown's not Montreal. I don't know where he's from, Ontario somewhere, or who knows where. I'm not familiar with where exactly. I know he's Canadian, but I don't know exactly where in Canada he lives. I know it's not Montreal. But he'll have 2 days with the cup, one for his hometown and one for the fans in Montreal that are still supporting him. So I fully expect to see that if Nashville ultimately ends up winning, and I will be enjoying every bit of it. Because I've grown to like the guy. After he left Montreal, I'm like, you know what? He's a great player. I love to hate him when he was wearing a Canadian sweater, but now that he's in Nashville, I enjoy watching him play. I mean, he plays with passion that a lot of the players just don't. They just don't show that level of passion that PK has. So, he's fun to watch for sure.
He is fun to watch. You're right. Electric. He's electric. He really is.
Now he does a lot offensively for him, but he does make some big, huge mistakes sometimes. A lot of times when Nashville gives up goals, it's a pretty good chance he's on the ice for most of them. So a lot seems to happen when he's on the ice, both good and bad. We'll put it that way. Most of the time, more often than not, it's good for the Nashville Predators, but he does. He's like that, that guy that it's just always something interesting happening when he's on the ice.
Yeah.
So, all right. Did you have anything else to add before we move on?
No, I think we covered those series well. It's exciting. I'm excited.
Yep.
And my team is not in the race, but I'm excited about it. And I didn't think I would be. I thought that by now I'd be tearing my hair out, going, these frickin' Ottawa Senators. But I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat talking about it tonight, and I'm excited about this Stanley Cup coming up. It's gonna be a good one with Nashville going through it the way they are, and with Ottawa making its run. It's been fun to watch.
Yep. Yeah. Either way, we have Pittsburgh or Ottawa in the final. It will be. I'm still all in for Nashville though. Either way. Because I don't want to see Pittsburgh win again, and I certainly don't want to see Ottawa, who beat both of our teams, to win. So, all right. Well, enough of that. Okay, well, let's move on to some of the other news stories that have happened around the league. First and foremost, the first one I have is the league did announce that the Stanley Cup Final will begin, no matter what, on Monday, May 29th. And game one will be between the Nashville Predators and either Pittsburgh or Ottawa, and it will be at the home arena of either Pittsburgh or Ottawa, whichever one comes out of the East. So Nashville will start on the road to start the Stanley Cup Final, because Nashville was the number 8 seed out west. So, so they will be traveling to begin the playoffs. Or to begin the final. All right. So let's move on to some of the transactions that have happened around the league. We've had a very light week of signing of players this week. We've had 2 Swedish guys, Kevin Stenlund, Philip Sandberg, both forwards, both who played for HV71, have signed NHL contracts. Stenlund is now property of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Sandberg is now property of the San Jose Sharks. Also with the Sharks, Radim Simek, defenseman, who was playing over in the Czech League for Billy Tigri Liberec. I don't know if
I think that's how I'd say it.
Yep. He is now signed with the San Jose Sharks. And an American has signed a contract. Travis Morin, forward. Oh, no, that's back. I got that one backwards. Travis Morin, forward, just signed a contract with the Texas Stars of the American Hockey League. So I probably shouldn't have included that one. He is property of the Dallas Stars. Last transaction I have for this week is one that came up today. We have a Craig Cunningham update. Remember, he's the guy who lost a leg there earlier in the season.
Yes.
Craig
Former
Cunningham.
Boston Bruin.
Yep, former Boston Bruin. That's right. Craig Cunningham signed a 2-year contract as a professional scout with the Arizona Coyotes on Wednesday.
Oh, that's good. Good news for him.
Yep.
Good.
Cunningham, who's 26, had a heart attack before a game with Tucson, the Coyotes American Hockey League affiliate, on November 19th. He needed advanced medical care, spent time on a ventilator, and had part of his left leg amputated, but he recovered enough to skate with a prosthetic leg and help from teammates and therapists on March 31st. So the story there is, Cunningham has a heart attack, and because of complications from that heart attack, ended up losing part of his leg, which obviously is going to end his professional playing career. So the Coyotes did him a solid and signed him as a scout earlier today. So congratulations to him on that.
Yes.
So we'll be seeing him in college and junior rinks around the country soon. All right. That's the only transactions I had for the week, unless you saw some that I missed.
I did not see any other transactions, and actually, as far as it goes, I was not aware of Craig Cunningham's transaction today, Wayne.
Yeah, I just saw that one after I got out of work today, and I added it real late to the show notes. So he just signed today on that one.
Good
All
news.
Right. So on the injury front, Nashville Predators center Ryan Johansson is expected to make a full recovery after having emergency left thigh surgery on Thursday following Game 4 of the Western Conference Final against the Anaheim Ducks. On Thursday, May 25th, Johansson was treated for an acute compartment syndrome of the left thigh. Rapid diagnosis and treatment are critical to prevent complications, Predators GM David Poyle said on a statement on Sunday. His symptoms developed shortly after the end of the Game 4 in Nashville, and as they progressed, he was diagnosed, transported to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, and had surgery performed by head team physician Dr. Jed Kuhn within 2 hours of his diagnosis. As a result, he had no permanent injury to his muscle, nerves, or blood vessels, and we expect a full and complete recovery. The Predators would like to thank Vanderbilt Life Flight paramedics, the VUMC Emergency Department, operating room nurses, and anesthesiologists for their expedient and excellent care. The Predators announced on Friday that Johansson would miss the remainder of the 2017 Stanley Cup playoffs, but didn't provide details of his injury. Johansson tied for the Predators' lead during the regular season with 61 points. He's tied for the Predators' lead in the playoffs with 13 points in 14 games. He skated slowly to the bench after being checked into the boards by Ducks defenseman Josh Manson at 15:22 of the second period in Game 4. He returned to the game and fell awkwardly after hit by Ducks defenseman Hampus Lindholm with 4:38 left in the third period. And we talked about this injury last week's show, talking about how big of a loss that Johansson not being there was going to be for Nashville.
Yes.
But they obviously overcame and were able to finish off the Ducks despite him not being there. But I spent a little bit of time this week because I had never heard of acute compartment syndrome before. Mm-hmm. And I still don't know much about it, but apparently it was extremely serious. He could have lost his leg if it wasn't treated.
I tell you, I didn't hear it that way. I didn't hear, I didn't hear there was that serious of an injury.
Yeah, they said that because of how quickly he was diagnosed and treated is what made it so that he'll make a complete recovery. But if apparently if this goes on and goes untreated or undiagnosed, permanent damage can occur to the muscles and nerves, and apparently it can cause at the least an amputation, and at most it can kill you.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I still don't know much about it, but yeah, it's just something I hadn't heard of before.
Yeah,
it almost seemed to me, and this is just my trying to understand what this is. It almost seemed to me like when you get a head injury and your brain hemorrhages, and sometimes they have to essentially, to lack of a better term, break your skull to relieve the pressure.
Right.
It almost seems something similar to that. I could be wrong. I don't, I still don't know for sure. I'm no doctor, of course. But the way it was described in some of the articles I read, it almost seemed like that they had to relieve some sort of pressure to allow, the swelling or whatever. They had to essentially do something to relieve some sort of pressure, and that's essentially what this was. And of course, in a case of a head injury, if you don't relieve that pressure, obviously that can kill you. But
right.
It just almost seems something similar to that. I could be wrong. I don't know, but yeah, it was just crazy to hear what he went through after that game. And the game ended, nobody thought anything of it, and all of a sudden the next morning, Ryan Johansson's out for the playoffs. What the hell? He finished the game.
Right. Yeah. That is really something.
Yeah.
Wayne. No, I got to say I'm not aware of that disease either. I can't be of any help to you.
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So, well, hopefully he makes a full recovery, because he's a great player and he's fun to watch, and he's obviously a big part of the Nashville's offense. So, he should be back by next season, from what they say.
That's great.
So, all right. The other injury I had was to Anaheim Ducks goalie John Gibson. He sustained a lower body injury in the first period of a 3-1 loss to Nashville of Game 5 of the Western Conference Final at Honda Center on Saturday. And, of course, at the time I read this article, it said Coach Randy Carlisle didn't rule him out for Game 6 in Nashville on Monday, but he, in fact, did not play. So, and I still haven't seen any further details what this lower body injury is that essentially ended his season.
Yeah, there's been no disclosure of that I've seen, Wayne.
Yeah. A lot of times with goalies, it's groin, but, that's just speculation.
Yep.
Based on past history.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, good. Let's move on to, first, milestones, records, and honors. I didn't have any for the week unless you found some.
No, there's none that I can put in that category right off.
No. All right. So that puts us into suspensions and fines. Anaheim Ducks forward Ryan Getzlaf was fined $10,000, the maximum permitted under NHL collective bargaining agreement, for directing an inappropriate remark toward another on-ice participant in Thursday's Game 4 of the team's Western Conference Finals Stanley Cup Series with the Nashville Predators. And the NHL announced, I can't remember what day it was that they did, but if you've been following that series, you know that he did get fined. Getzlaf's comment is a violation of the league's policy, which prohibits inappropriate and offensive remarks and the use of obscene, profane, or abusive language or gestures in the game. Getzlaf's comment in Thursday's game, particularly as directed to another individual in the ice, was inappropriately demeaning and disrespectful and crossed the line into behavior that we deem unacceptable, said NHL Senior Executive VP of Hockey Operations Colin Campbell. The type of language chosen and utilized in this instance will not be tolerated in the National Hockey League. Now, did he get fined because of what he said, or is the fact that he got caught? That's my question.
Right. Because
cameras caught it.
Yeah.
You can go online and you can find the video and see plain as day. You don't have to be an amazing lip reader to tell exactly what he said.
Right.
But
here's the thing, Wayne. Now you tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Whenever a fight breaks out, or a scrum between, a fight between more than two players against the boards, they try to score a goal or something, and all of a sudden, there's two guys in the crease, and some tensions get high, and something breaks out behind the net. Yep. And you got 3 or 4 players from each team in the middle of a row. Here comes the officials. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, like you say. I mean, the F-bomb and, all kinds of other words are coming out of their mouths during those times.
Oh, yeah.
And the officials hear it.
Yep.
They hear it.
Yep. Well,
I wouldn't be
they don't seem to have the they don't seem to have a problem with just shouting out the F word. Well, the 4-letter F word, we'll put it that way.
right.
But other reports that I've seen, the NHL.com wasn't specific on exactly what he said, but if you look at some of the newspapers around the U.S. and Canada that are willing to go into a little bit more detail, said it was a homophobic slur of some kind.
Right.
So, when you start calling people names, particularly referees, which apparently
Right.
this was directed at one of the officials.
Right.
This is what causes the NHL to go, yeah, you can't do that.
Right. Well, and maybe because I'm telling you, I've literally seen players skating off the ice after they've been called for a penalty that they didn't agree with,
Yep.
and I've watched them look right at the official and call him very choice, very X-rated language.
Yep.
And there's been nothing done.
Yep.
Okay. They
and
let
occasionally the mics catch it.
Yep.
You can watch a game every once in a while. One of those words will fly, and the mic picks it up.
Yep.
And of course, they quickly pot down the volume on that so it doesn't continue. But yeah.
And you being an official, tensions and passion during the game heats up.
Yep.
And you're liable to say or do something that you normally wouldn't do in a hockey game. It happens. But I don't know. I did not hear specifically what it is they're claiming Ryan Getzlaf said. So I can't speak to it. But if the league cracked down on him like that, I'm thinking, well, obviously I didn't hear what it was he said.
Yeah.
I must not have heard it.
No,
because if it was anything that normally comes out of players' mouths after a scrum or something against the boards, or they're skating off the ice and they got called for a high stick and the player embellished it. You see it all the time.
Yep.
They will really give the referee once or twice some choice words, and it happens. Nothing ever happened. You don't read about that player being fined any money versus $10,000.
Right.
So,
well, what typically gets let go is those words and those things fly, and they'll be like, oh, that's an effing horrible call. That that kind of stuff. But when it gets directed at an individual, at a referee or another player, you are an effing whatever.
Right.
That's when it crosses the line, and that's when the NHL steps in. And because this one was caught on camera, no, you didn't hear what he said, but I guarantee you, if you go and look for the video and you find it, it's on YouTube. It's everywhere.
Right.
Just do a search for Ryan Getzlaf fined $10,000 on YouTube.
Right.
The video will come up probably right at the top of the list, showing him sitting on the bench, yelling out at the referee, calling him an effing this, and you're gonna read that and say, yeah, okay, that's exactly what he said. you can read his lips right there, exactly what he said. So,
oh, that's good, Wayne.
Without a doubt. So that's when the league said, yeah, we've got to do something there. So he just crossed a line that couldn't be crossed.
I think here. Ryan Getzlaf wanted to win that series so bad he could taste it.
Yep.
He wanted that. He wanted that Western Conference championship. He wanted to be in the Stanley Cup again. Here he is, the only surviving guy from their last trip.
Wasn't Perry there?
Maybe Corey Perry was.
Yeah.
Maybe Corey Perry was, and I
think Perry and Getzlaf were there. I can't
Randy
tell you.
Carlyle was there as well.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many other Anaheim Ducks were. Our boys out at the Puck Podcast could probably tell us.
Yeah.
Because one of them's a fan of the Ducks. He could probably tell us right off the top of his head how many players on the Ducks were on that roster. I don't follow the West Coast teams as much as I do the East, so I couldn't exactly, but I believe Perry and Getzlaff were both there for that last cup. But yeah, I mean, those guys know. I mean, they're not getting any younger. That could be their last shot.
Yeah.
At winning a cup, and it essentially went away. So yeah. All right. Well, Getzlaff is $10,000 lighter in the wallet as a result of his remarks. Tasteful remarks. We'll put it that way. All right. That brings us to the HockeyNuts.com power rankings for the week, and we're down to 3 teams. And the order I have, correct me if I'm wrong, is Nashville, Pittsburgh, and Ottawa. 1, 2, 3.
It's the order I have.
Yep.
So you can't put Ottawa on the top 2. You just can't.
Unless they win tomorrow night.
If they win tomorrow night, they make it into the top 2, and then depending on how the series goes, they could even jump to number 1.
Yep.
So we'll just have to wait and see. That game tomorrow night is going to be very exciting to watch. I'm looking forward to that. I really am, because I have a feeling that Ottawa is going to come in there and they're going to fight. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a game.
Yep.
And I hope it is.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to watch.
Agreed. All right. Well, that brings us to the World Championships. Now, we won't spend a whole lot of time on talking about the World Championships at this point. Other than to give you the results, because you have a story as your pick of the week that's related to the World Championships. But just to get everybody caught up, when we finished last week's podcast, we took you through the games of the quarterfinal, leaving 4 teams left, and the 4 teams remaining were Canada, Russia, Sweden, Finland. And they were facing each other off in the semifinal. Canada ended up playing Russia in the semifinal and beat them 4-2. And then Sweden ended up playing Finland in the other semifinal and beat them 4-1, setting up a gold medal game of Canada versus Sweden and a bronze medal game of Russia versus Finland. In the bronze medal game on Sunday, Russia ended up beating Finland in that game, and it was 5-2. I think. I don't have. For some reason, my show notes I'm missing Finland's score. I know Russia scored 5.
I believe it's 5-3, Wayne.
5-2, 5-3.
Yeah.
So Russia takes the bronze in the World Championship, and then in the gold medal game, Sweden comes out and beats Canada 2-1 to take the gold this year. And I thought Canada was going to win it this year, but because it's not often that Canada or U.S. wins the gold in this particular tournament.
Right.
For the fact of the matter is that some of the best Canadian and American players are still playing in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Right.
And the European teams tend to do better just because. Well, first of all, it's very rare that the World Championships actually take place in North America. They almost always take place over in Europe. Mm-hmm. Which gives those European players a kind of a home ice advantage, if you will. And then, they tend to have a more cohesive roster showing up. Like like Sweden's roster had a lot of Swedish Pro League players on their roster, and of course those guys are getting together as a team much earlier than the Americans and the Canadians do. They basically just throw an all-star team together and of the players remain. Well, although I did notice this year, speaking of Canada and U.S., I don't know if you noticed the same thing. The roster that got sent over there for Canada and the U.S. were a very young group. There didn't seem to be very many veterans at all. Most of the veterans were just, passing up that opportunity to play. They were like, no, I got some wounds to heal.
Right.
And
That's very true.
And it seemed, your Johnny Gaudreau's and, Charlie McAvoy was playing over there. Noah Hannafin of the Hurricanes all went over there. These are all guys under 25 years old. And that was the general makeup of the American and the Canadian teams was all. Nathan McKinnon was Canada's best player in the tournament this year. And he's also under 25. So that was the thing that jumped out at me most, about Canada and the U.S. in particular, was how young the teams were over there.
Right. And listen, Wayne, with the exception of Erik Karlsson, Sweden's world club class A team showed up on the ice. They had everybody there.
Yep.
So including Henrik Lundqvist. So you would expect Sweden to have really contested, and I don't know what the odds were, but they may have been the odds-on favorite to win that game against Canada. I don't know. They had their Class A #1 team on the ice.
Yep.
So
yeah, it seemed like the Swedish players, the ones that were still playing. Well, the World Championships actually started up after the first round ended. So anybody who was eliminated in the first round of the NHL playoffs or before, if they didn't make the playoffs, all those guys went there immediately.
Right.
And then a whole bunch more showed up after their teams got eliminated in the second round. Like you said, Lundqvist went back quickly after the Rangers lost. Nick Backstrom from Washington, he ended up on the team after Washington got knocked out. So there's just two examples there of players that even guys that were on teams in the second round when they got knocked out. And I don't know of anybody from Canada, the U.S., who played in the second round in the NHL playoffs who actually went to Europe to join the team. I don't think anybody did.
Yeah, I think you're right. The only guy I know who finished the second round went over there was Henrik Lundqvist, and he plays for Sweden.
And Backstrom went for Washington. He played for Sweden.
Yeah.
So and that's generally what's going on with this particular tournament because of the timing of it. The North Americans don't really care ultimately about this tournament. They really don't. But the Europeans, they live for this tournament. This is their tournament every year.
Right.
Not unlike the Olympics. The Olympics is when the Americans and the Canadians care.
Right.
They care very much about the team that they put over there.
Right.
But the World Championships, because it happens at the same time as the NHL playoffs, Americans and Canadians are like, yeah, that's great. You go have your fun over there in Europe. Go back to Europe. Go have your fun. We care about the Stanley Cup. That's what we care about over here. So
now, Wayne, I did a little research.
Okay.
I did a little research on this tournament, and unless I read the wrong thing, okay, I looked at the World Championships regarding the United States. And the United States surprisingly has won 2 World Championships, if what I read was correct.
Okay.
But that's all they've won, 2 World Championships. They've been to the finals half a dozen times, maybe. Not very much.
No.
But do you know the last time they won a World Championship?
No.
You're not going to believe it.
Don't say 1980.
No. Oh, that would be not that long ago. 1960.
Wow.
It's the last time the United States has won the IIHF World Championship.
Really?
For the men. That's correct.
Wow.
I went and checked it. And before that, it's like 1930 something.
Wow.
So, it's a tournament, and I didn't know this. I didn't know it till I looked it up. I was like, well, I don't remember the United States ever winning this and I go back to the 90s, Brett Hall, go through all those guys. I don't remember the United States pulling this off. I don't remember them winning it. I don't ever remember them winning it. And sure enough, 1960 is the last time we won that.
That's crazy. I would have thought we'd won it at some point along the way.
And Canada has just 20-some times they've won it. I think they've won it as many times, maybe a time or two less than the Russians have.
Yep.
But they've won it a bunch. So that shows you.
Well, it shows you how deep the talent is in Canada. Even when the best players are still playing in the Stanley Cup final, they can still field a team that's world class.
That's right.
Hell, you could take Canada and give each province in Canada its own team and put them into the World Championship, and they would probably compete at a very high level.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm not surprised that Canada has won that as many as they have, even though ultimately they only care when Canada is, I guarantee you they cared on Sunday because they were in the gold medal game, but
Right.
but ultimately, the bottom line is this tournament in particular is, it happens every year, but it happens every year during the NHL playoffs. So it
Right.
is a tournament that is much more important to the Europeans than it is to the North Americans.
Right.
So much so that the European professional leagues, most of the top European professional leagues, including the KHL, make sure that their season is finished before the World Championships start, so that all their players can go and compete in the World Championships if they're available.
Right.
So, and our boy Mozyakin over there, speaking of which, he only lasted 3 games and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
I was hoping to see him play a little bit more.
Yeah, I didn't get to see him play at all, to be honest with you, Wayne, because I didn't watch but a few of the games. But
he played in the first 3 games, then he got hurt, but he was doing very well up until then.
Yeah,
he was competing as well as any. But Vegas's new player, Shipashev, the player that they just signed out of the KHL, he'll be making his NHL debut this fall. He was one of the best players in the tournament.
Yeah, he is a great player.
He's 30 years old, so he'll be a rookie at 30 years old, so he won't be eligible for the Calder. But Vegas has signed a pretty damn good player in him, and he'll be, if he plays like he did in the World Championship, he'll be. He was one of Russia's best players this year. He'll be a lock for the first line there in Vegas.
That's really great.
Vegas fans will be really happy to watch him play. So,
and of course, you never know, Wayne. What we talked about on previous podcasts, the KHL could get a contingent there in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And pretty soon it's the Western Vegas team versus the Eastern KHL.
Yeah, right.
KHL of the NHL team.
Yep. Yeah, you never know. So. All right. Well, that's enough about the world title. So congrats to Sweden for winning the gold this year.
Yes.
Let's move on to the Memorial Cup, shall we?
Yes, sir.
And we are several games into this. We've had, let's see, games 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 have all been played. I think 6 is tonight. Yeah, game 6 is tonight, which is the last game. Tonight's game is the last game of the round robin before. And the way we have it as of right now, this is going into tonight's game. So games through May 23rd, we have game 1 back on May 19th. We had the St. John, New Brunswick taking on Windsor, and Windsor won that game 3-2. On the 20th, the Erie Otters beat the Seattle Thunderbirds 4-2. On the 21st, which was Sunday, Windsor Spitfires blew out the Seattle Thunderbirds 7-1. And then on Monday, even bigger blowout. Get this score. The Erie Otters beat the St. John, New Brunswick. Now, these are champions of their respective league. This is the OHL champion against the Quebec Major Junior champion, right? Final score, Erie 12, St. John 5.
Yep.
Like a softball score.
Yeah.
And then last night we had another blowout. St. John came out. I guess they got tired of getting their butts kicked. They came out and beat Seattle 7-0.
Yeah.
Even though they were outshot 31-28 in that game.
Yeah. Wow.
So that leaves us with it's just a wild tournament. It really is. That leaves us with the 4 teams. Here are the standings as they are right now. Erie and Windsor are both tied for first with 4 points each. St. John has 2 points, and Seattle has no points. They're 0-3. So what that means is, and the way things work out is, essentially they have their so-called playoff, I guess, if you want to call it that, after this round robin. Number 4 team essentially is eliminated after this preliminary round. So then you got 3 teams left. The semifinal, quote unquote, is number 2 plays number 3, and they play number 1 in the championship. So the number 1 team advances right straight to the championship. Now tonight you have left Erie, who's already 2-0, against Windsor, who is also 2-0, I believe. So tonight's game, both teams are advancing into the next round, as it were. But tonight's game will decide who the number 1 team is, and the winner of tonight's game advances all the way to the championship for the Memorial Cup. Mm-hmm. And then the loser of tonight's game will play St. John in the semifinals. Seattle's out. They've lost all 3 of their games, so they're done. Mm. So,
very interesting.
So that's the way the Memorial Cup lays out. So right now, Erie is playing. I mean, they're not just beating teams; they're beating teams. They're really beating up on teams. So they've got they've played 2 games so far. They have 16 goals for, 7 goals against in 2 games. So yeah, that's Connor McDavid's old team, Erie Otters. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that.
Him and I believe Mitch Marner played for them too, didn't he? Toronto.
You got me there.
I think so.
Could be.
I could be wrong, but I believe so. I do say that a lot. I could be wrong. All right. Well, let's move on to the American Hockey League, where a team that's of local interest to me is still playing. The Providence Bruins.
Yes.
And I'm trying to pull up their bracket here. There we go. All right. Now, since last week, they were going into the conference championship. They had yet to play game 1 as of last week. Well, since then, only 2 games have been played in each series, and both series are tied up 1-1. So not a whole lot has happened. Not surprising, because essentially what happens with the American Hockey League is American Hockey League avoids Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday games because attendance is the biggest money maker for. They don't have TV deals like the NHL does to make them money. Mm-hmm. So if you look at the American Hockey League schedule, and the ECHL is probably the same way, those leagues avoid playing games on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday if they can, because they know attendance is going to be lower. But Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they can count on pretty good attendance. So both series have only played 2 games each. Both series are tied 1 game apiece. So there's really not a whole lot more to report other than that, other than the fact that both series are down to essentially a 5-game series at this point, and it's anyone's game. So go Providence. All right, let's move on to ECHL, where we already have 1 team that is advanced on to the Kelly Cup Finals, and that is Colorado.
Yes.
They have moved on. They beat the Toledo Walleye 4-1 in the Western Conference of the ECHL. In the Eastern Conference, the Stingrays and the Monarchs are tied at 3 games apiece. Now, of course, being you and I are living here in the South, you would tend to think that we would be cheering for South Carolina Stingrays to win the game, but I've also attended Manchester Monarchs games when they were in the American Hockey League, and Manchester is a city that's relatively close to where I'm from, and Manchester does have at least 1 Bruins prospect that I know of. So I'm kind of rooting for them to win.
Yeah. You won't catch me pulling for South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. So, no, I think the Rangers affiliate is Greenville, actually. I don't think it's the Stingray, but I could be wrong. but the ties with the Rangers ties are with a different team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, but that Kelly Cup will start up quickly. I guess. When is the last game? Tonight? Tomorrow night?
That's what I'm looking up right now. Looking up to see when that seventh game is, and it's actually playing right now as we speak. It's tonight.
Wow.
There's 7:23 in the first, and it's 1-1 in that game. As of this moment, a live update. 7:23 to go in the first. It's 1-1 in Game 7 of that series, and I don't think they've announced the schedule for the final, but I would imagine where we're going into the weekend here, I would imagine they're probably going to have it start up Friday night. That would be my guess for Game 1. So stay tuned on that. Next week we will have ECHL Kelly Cup Finals updates. So, all right. Well, that wraps up all of our news for the week. So that leaves us with only one thing left, and that's our picks of the week. And
that's right.
Actually, we both have one that's related to the New York Rangers. Surprise, surprise! I've got one too, and it's got Rangers ties. So
I saw that.
Yep.
I really want to hear that one, Wayne. So why don't you let me go first,
okay,
so I can hear yours?
All right.
Because mine is, we've already alluded to it a little bit. I bring up again my favorite player in the game.
And before you get going, if you check my show notes, I did include a couple of links to a couple stories related. I don't know if you want to pull those up and refer to those as part of your story or not.
Oh, I did not see that. Yeah, I might have to check that out.
The second link in particular is probably one that might interest you.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see here if I can do that. Well, I did want to talk about Henrik Lundqvist and Team Sweden.
Yep.
They won the gold medal with Sweden at the World Championships in Cologne, Germany. And I don't know how you say that. LAN XS Arena? Is that?
That's how I'd say it. Yeah.
Yeah. They did so Sunday in really was a thrilling game. The game actually, I guess the World Cup rules is that if it ends in regulation in a tie, there is a 20-minute overtime. And if the game is still tied at the end of that 20-minute overtime, then they go into a shootout for the World Championships. And that's what happened.
Yep.
So, anyways, Henrik Lundqvist wins gold medal with Sweden at the Worlds. Henrik Lundqvist is golden once again. The New York Rangers goaltender made 42 saves and stopped all 4 shot attempts in the shootout in Sweden's 2-1 win against Canada in the gold medal game of the 2017 IIHF World Championships at LAN XS Arena on Sunday. He did so with twin brother Joel Lundqvist, a forward with Sweden, as his captain. Henrik Lundqvist joined Sweden after the Rangers lost to the Ottawa Senators in 6 games in the Eastern Conference second round. It's a great feeling, he said, with trophy in hand, gold medal draped around his neck, and golden confetti still stuck in his pads. When I left New York, I was very disappointed the way it ended there. I also saw this as a big opportunity for me to come and play for my country and play with my brother. I don't know how many more chances I'll get. This was the goal, the dream. I pictured this. We had the team for it. I put a lot of pressure on myself to come here and help the team do it. It's the first time Lundqvist has won the gold with Sweden since the 2006 Turin Olympics, and the first time playing in the World Championships since 2008. And it's important to note that they did win the World Championships in 2013, but Henrik did not play that year.
Right.
It's extra emotional for sure, said Joel Lundqvist, who has spent the past 8 seasons with Frölunda of the Swedish Hockey League. A win is a win, a gold medal, but to do it with Henrik, we grew up watching Team Sweden play, and to win a gold medal is a dream come true for sure. I know Henrik, when he lost over in New York, he was very disappointed. But I told him right away, we had a great group here and to come. We want you and we need you. He played his best hockey. We needed it. It's awesome. To be here today winning a gold medal together, it's an amazing feeling. The addition of Henrik Lundqvist to Sweden's roster was a very welcomed addition, according to his teammates. My God, it's so hard to describe, the Colorado Avalanche captain Gabriel Landeskog said. He's the backbone of the team. Him and Joel, their parents must be very proud. Henrik is just so calm back there. It spreads through our whole team and whole lineup as far as how we play and how we act in the locker room and things like that. He's the backbone of the team for sure. Canada entered the gold medal game as the two-time defending champion after winning in 2015 and 2016. Sweden hadn't won the tournament since 2013. Lundqvist helped change that. He allowed one goal through regulation and overtime and denied Nathan MacKinnon, Braden Point, Ryan O'Reilly, and Mitch Marner in the shootout. His final save, which was against Marner, clinched gold. You try to stay in the moment, he said. That's the key. Don't get ahead of yourself. Even when you start scoring and you can just feel we're getting closer and closer, don't get ahead of yourself. Stay in the moment and focus on the next shot. When it was over, it was just an amazing feeling. Obviously, to pull it off the way we did is a great feeling. It also guaranteed an emotional embrace at the blue line between brothers, together as world champions. So I was very happy for Henrik because, gosh, we have taken a beating in these playoffs, in the last 6 years, Wayne, we've been to the Eastern Conference Championship 3 times. We've had a lot of opportunities, and it just hasn't worked out for him. So I was glad that he was able to get over there to the Worlds and win it. So
And yeah, that article that you just read excerpts from was an article that was the link that I was talking about just before you started. And that was written by Aaron Vickers over at NHL.com. So, great article, great story. It was kind of weird watching the game, and we talked about it a little bit before the show. Watching, of course, we don't get to see the Swedish league that often. So we don't get to see players over there. To see Joel Lundqvist out there playing forward, and if you look at him, you're like, wait a minute. Is that Henrik Lundqvist skating out? Because that's what it looks like. They're twins, so.
I literally did a double take on that.
So it's like it just looks weird to see, what essentially looks like Henrik Lundqvist skating out and not playing goal.
It's funny to hear. And Lundqvist passes the puck down, and Lundqvist in between the dots, and wait a minute, he's in the net. What are you talking about?
But no, it's his twin brother Joel. Oh, okay. But no, very, very happy for him to get his get that world championship, and what makes it even better, winning it with his brother, because his brother's not the kind of talented player as a forward. He obviously never got the call to play over here in the U.S. In the National Hockey League. I'm sure he tried. I couldn't tell you if he's ever been to training camps over here, but I'm sure he has been to at least one training camp at one time or a past. I mean, Henrik's standing in the league would almost guarantee that he gets at least a look from somebody, but he never did get the opportunity to play over here. But he's playing over in the Swedish league, which is the best league that Sweden has to offer, and in fact, he's one of the stars of that league, from what I understand. And he got named the captain of Team Sweden. So, needless to say, if your brother's the captain of the team, you get eliminated and your team's still in it, you're going to make that quick flight over there. Within 24 hours, he was in. I mean, he didn't even have a chance to wipe the tears away from losing to Ottawa. He's in the nets for Sweden. So
yeah, that's so true. And I was glad for him, to pull it off.
And I saw the team picture, of the 2017 World Champion Sweden, the victory picture where the team gets together with the cup in front of them and everything else. Henrik's still wearing his Rangers pads.
yeah, he is. He wore his Rangers pads at the game, and my wife and I looked at that and we were like, "Well, those are his New York Rangers pads with the Sweden uniform." Yep. And good for him, man. they say there's 4 trophies you can win, if you're an NHL player: to win an Olympic gold,
Yep.
to win a World Championship gold, to win the World Cup,
Yep.
and to win the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
And there's not many players have done that.
No. No,
Um,
I'd be imagining that not anybody has.
I think Patrice Bergeron may have.
Has he won all 4? Okay.
He's got the Stanley Cup and the gold with Canada at the Olympics.
Yeah, it's possible he might have, because the Bruins have missed the playoffs and he's gone over there to play in the Worlds. So yeah, it's quite possible he has all 4.
Yeah. He might be the only one.
There's well, if it is, it's a very
Sydney.
small. It's a very small club. Crosby might be as
Yep.
well, because Pittsburgh hasn't always made the playoffs either. But
Right.
yeah, it would be a very small club for sure,
Right.
of those that win it all. And
That's right.
and really is the only one that Henrik's missing is the Stanley Cup, right?
Well, he's got to win a World Cup too, and
okay.
I don't know if that'll come around. Hopefully it comes around in 4 years.
Well, the World Cups, they've only had 3 tournaments, so it's not like there's a lot of opportunity to win that one. But I
Right.
still say the hardest one to win is the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
That's like hitting for the cycle in baseball. Well, you can have your double, your single, and your home run. Those are relatively easy to get in this day and age. It's that damn triple that's hard to get.
Yeah, that's right.
The
That's
Stanley Cup is hockey's triple in the whatever you want to call it, hitting for the cycle. So
Yeah.
anyway, all right.
Thank
Well,
you.
that was a great story for Henrik Lundqvist and his family. So my story is also of a Rangers note, and it is from an article. And in fact, I don't have the link and the author. Let me look it up real quick before I continue. And of course, I can't find it real quick. But anyway, I apologize for that. But anyway, I found an article on NHL.com. I can at least credit the source of where the article came from. But anyway, it reads, who better to give little advice on how to play like Matt Zuccarello than Matt Zuccarello himself? Edvin Vele, I think as I'm reading his name right. It could be, or it could just be Vel. A 12-year-old resident of Oslo, Norway, was imitating his idol outside his house on Friday when suddenly New York Rangers forward appeared. Vele was practicing his shot in his driveway when Zuccarello saw him and stopped by to talk hockey. Often when I train, I think of NHL players, and suddenly there was one there, Edvin told the Oslo-based newspaper Aftenposten. Zuccarello's my biggest role model, so it was incredibly cool to meet him. Vele, an avid youth hockey player, was obviously surprised to see the pro in front of his house. It's so nice to take time for something like that, Lynn Stalsberg, Vele's mother, told Aftenposten. Vele snapped the selfie with Zuccarello, and Stalsberg captured a photo of her son getting a lesson with the Rangers' leading scorer and Norwegian hockey icon and posted it to Instagram. When you stand outside your yard and practice shooting for yourself and maybe daydreaming about hockey and heroes, and suddenly Matt Zuccarello is right next to you, his mother's caption said. Zuccarello, who is in his native Norway during the Rangers' offseason, has played the most games of the 8 Norwegian-born players to play in the NHL. And he and Andreas Martinsen of the Colorado Avalanche are the only 2 active players from Norway currently in the NHL. So it was a real quick story, but but it caught my attention because here it is. You got some kid playing hockey in his driveway by himself.
Yeah.
Zuccarello happens to drive by or walk by or however he was, just happened to be going by, sees the kid playing hockey and decides, hey, what the heck, I'll stop.
Yeah.
Talk to him. Like, how great is that, huh?
That is.
That's similar to the story we talked about earlier in the season when Crosby stopped by that house there over in Nova Scotia to sign the jersey. I mean,
yeah,
that's great to see
that.
NHL players who aren't so full of themselves that they're, too good to stop and give a great moment to a kid like that.
Yeah. Really amazing.
Particularly a kid who's in Norway probably doesn't have the opportunity to see. Certainly doesn't have the opportunity to see Zuccarello play live. He probably has
Right.
to watch him on TV if he even gets a chance to see that. To
Right.
see Zuccarello all of a sudden just appear in your driveway, like he turns around, there he is standing there. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. The shock of a lifetime.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So, no, great.
That's a great story.
It is a great story. Yep.
Oh. I'm still trying to figure out how. Maybe somebody called Zuccarello and said, "Hey, you got a guy out here with your shirt on playing in the driveway."
Well, apparently he just happened to be going by.
That's really something.
And he saw the kid and stopped.
Yeah.
So, of course, if I was in my home country like that, and you happen to drive by and see, a kid wearing your jersey or your T-shirt or whatever, yeah, I'd stop by too. But still, you don't see. We keep making this comparison, but you don't see basketball, football, or baseball players doing that very often.
That's very true. It's very true. Hockey has guys to a man that care. They really do. They're very gracious to the fans for the most part, and up until today, and I'm knocking on wood, you just don't have those problems that are associated with some of the other professional leagues. So,
yep,
and that's a blessing. That's
You're
a
right.
blessing. So.
Yeah. I got the weather reports on because, tornadoes.
Yeah, we've had so much rain here in North Carolina. It's been terrible.
Yeah. Well, that beeping you heard from my phone was another one of those weather updates.
Yeah.
I've got the sound on because they're talking tornadoes in the area, so I'm keeping one eye on that stuff. Make sure we don't have to run for cover. I don't expect it. We live in a kind of a hilly area here, so that alone helps protect us from that kind of stuff. We're still going to get all the wind and rain, but just not the real, the stuff that can tear your house down.
That's right.
So, all right, well, let's go ahead and close the show then. I don't have anything else unless you do.
No, I think we're set. We're looking forward to this coming week with the start of the Stanley Cup, and we'll be able to talk more about the teams and strategies and all that stuff as we sit down next Wednesday night, hopefully.
Yep. Yeah, the next scheduled recording is next Wednesday night, and that by then we will have game 1 will have been finished, and we should be looking at I think game 2 is on the 31st. Is that right? I think it is.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is. So we'll be recording the show right in front of game 2. So we'll have at least one Stanley Cup final game to talk about next week. And then, of course, next week, because we're in the Stanley Cup Finals, some of these other tournaments will be long gone. AHL will still be going on, but ECHL will probably be getting done about the same time the NHL. Anyway, we're going to be running out of hockey games to talk about. That's the bottom line. True. So we can start taking a look ahead and see what is going to be coming up after that. Very quickly after I think I saw somewhere, because of the Stanley Cup Final, if the Stanley Cup Final ends up going to Game 7, teams will have less than 48 hours to get their rosters in after the end of the Stanley Cup Finals, get their rosters in for the expansion draft. So things happen quickly after the Stanley Cup Final is over. Right after that, you got the expansion draft, and then right after that, you've got the regular amateur draft, and then right after that, you've got free agency. So it just bang, 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 right? Keeps rolling. Right. Even though the games will have stopped, there'll still be plenty of hockey to talk about. So we're going to keep rolling along on a weekly basis until probably about a week or two after July 1st is the first day of free agency. So week or two after that, we will probably switch to a once every 2 week podcast because for the first week after July 1st, there's tons of signings. It's just signing right after one after another. All the big names will probably go within the first week or so, and then things just die off after that, because then all the executives, all the players, everybody wants to get out and go to their summer camps and spend their time on the lake that they get to spend in the summertime and that kind of stuff. And then, the news just drops way off after that. So
that's right.
So we'll switch to an every other week. We'll spend the summer probably talking, looking ahead at the next season, making our predictions and whatnot on what we think is going to happen going forward. And then at the beginning of training camps, we'll start right back up with weeklies. Usually we start with, or like we did last year, we start with team previews, team by team previews, where we look at all 30, well, this year will be 31 teams, all 31 teams, and take a look and see how they've changed over the summer and so on. So a lot coming up. That's the bottom line. So just because the game stopped playing doesn't mean the news stops flowing. So we'll have plenty to talk about over the summer, even though we are going to be every other week.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and wrap things up then. Again, we'll remind everybody we have affiliate links on our hockey website at thehockeynuts.com. If you use those affiliate links, again, you get the same price that you normally would pay, but we would get a little bit of cut of it to help us with the production of this podcast. Also, you can find us at all the different places that you can get podcasts: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Google Play Music, Player.fm, you name it, we're there. You can reach us on our website. You can listen to us, on our website right at thehockeynuts.com, or you can listen to us right on thehockeywriters.com. And that is a great website to get also additional hockey news and insight from around the hockey world. And then, of course, we encourage you to share the show with other hockey fans that you know, and subscribe to us through iTunes. That helps us rise the rankings there, helps us get noticed more on that platform, because iTunes is a very big place for podcasts to be. So
yes,
thousands and thousands of podcasts are on iTunes. So if you're not familiar with it, you should check it out, because almost every podcast that I know of is available on iTunes. So, and then, of course, you can reach us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And, of course, our YouTube channel is at thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. So we have all kinds of places you can get us. And then, of course, you can interact with us. You can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at sball504man. You can email the show at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. Oh, speaking of email, there was an email I saw, and I apologize to the person who wrote it. I don't have it up. I meant to pull it up before we started recording, and things were rushed along. And I don't know if you saw it, Steve. I can't remember if it was an email or a tweet. Again, the details are vague to me at this point. But it was a gentleman who listens to our show. And, again, I apologize, I don't remember the name. But he wanted to take you to task, Steve.
I did. I have not seen this one.
Okay. Well, we'll get to the details maybe in a future show. But essentially, in a nutshell, and I'm paraphrasing, you were talking in a recent episode about how great Alain Vigneault has been doing with the Rangers. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to take you to task on that. He is not a Vigneault fan.
Yeah.
He thinks that Vigneault was a big part of the reason the Rangers lost to Ottawa. Essentially, it was an email criticizing your opinions on Vigneault. But here's my take on all of this. There are a lot of podcasts out there that just slam the team. Slam the team, slam the ownership, slam the coaches, just pound. There are Rangers podcasts that do it. There are Bruins podcasts that do it, that do nothing but complain and whine and everything else at how bad their team is, how bad everybody sucks, and how bad all this is. We try to keep things a little on the positive side. Here's the bottom line with the New York Rangers. They got to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. There are
Right.
only 8 teams that get to go to the second round of the playoffs. So that means there are 22 teams that would have loved to been in the Rangers' shoes sitting in the second round of the playoffs. Yeah, they didn't win, but not every team can win. Okay?
That's right.
Ottawa has proven that they're not any kind of a slouch of a team. They're winning games. They have a way to win games. It's not pretty. It's kind of boring, actually, but that's the way it is. They won. Did Vino get out coached? I don't know. Some people say yes. Some people say no. But it's all opinion and speculation. The bottom line is, if you're a fan of a team and they went to the second round of the playoffs, there's fans of 22 other teams that wish they got as far as your team did. So
That's right.
Look at it that way. I mean, that's just my take. The Bruins, yeah, they made the playoffs, but guess what? They didn't get very far. I'm disappointed that they didn't get very far. They lost in the first round, but hey, they got to the playoffs, and I was happy they did.
That's right.
I would have been more disappointed if they missed the playoffs. And ultimately, from last season to this season, I think they drafted 14th last year. They're going to draft 18th this year. So they got to the playoffs, and it only cost them 4 spots in the draft is the way I look at it. We'll take that trade.
Look at it, Wayne.
Huh?
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, the Rangers, the Rangers are going to be a little further down the list, but because they went to the second round. But anyway. So to those fans out there who think that, it's a love fest over here with our teams, you know what? We're fans of our teams, and Steve and I happen to take more of a positive approach to it than some of the other fans out there that just dump on the team left and right.
Right. I have yet to mention the podcast by name, and I won't. But I know of one Rangers podcast right now that is incredibly negative.
Yeah.
Against the team, the management, the owners. You wonder why they pull for the Rangers.
Right. If you hate your team so much, why are you a fan of them? Exactly.
Right. So and I'm just not gonna I'm just not gonna go into details any more than that.
Yeah.
We are rabid hockey fans, and while our teams didn't win and advance all the way to the Stanley Cup this year, we're still rabid hockey fans, and so we're not members of the press, and we have no axe to grind. I wish we had made it to the Eastern Conference Finals right now playing the Penguins? Yes, I certainly do. But I'm happy with the season we had, with the changes that were made, and I think Alain Vigneault at this point is still doing a great job as the Rangers coach. Hope he stays.
Overall, yeah.
Yes.
Yep. So and Bruins changed their coach in the middle of the season, and a lot of people could say, the new coach, well, good or bad, what the new coach did, he got the team to a point where they were out of the playoffs when he started, and now he brought them to the playoffs. Okay, well, that's step 1. Now step 2, it's too early to tell with our guy. Now step 2 is, can he take the next step and take the Bruins back to the playoffs after being the coach for a full season, and then let's win around. And
right.
Then, that's the way it is in today's hockey league. I mean, it's a salary cap era. Teams, you're not going to be able to see the Oilers of the 80s, the Islanders of the late 70s, early 80s, the Montreal Canadiens of the 70s. Those days are done. You're not going to see teams winning 3, 4, 5 years in a row. It's just not going to happen anymore. The salary cap is all but guarantees that.
Right.
So all we have to hold hope on is that we catch lightning in a bottle, win it one year, win it once every decade or two, and that's about the best you can hope for in most cases. Yeah, you're still going to have teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins who essentially got lucky. If you remember, them getting Sidney Crosby, they were coming out of the full year lockout, and they essentially held a 30-team lottery for the for the first overall pick, and the Pittsburgh Penguins had the best chance to win on account of the last time there was a NHL season, they were the worst team in the league. So they essentially got to cash in twice on being the worst team, first by getting Malkin, then by getting Crosby. And then, all of a sudden you've got the makings of a great team right there with just those two players. I mean, yeah, it's more than two players, but to make a great team, but it doesn't hurt to have those two guys like that.
That's right.
And then the Chicago Blackhawks were bad for years and years and years. And then, drafted very high in the draft for several years. And they ended up getting Kane and Taves. And, again, the rest is history, But it took them a few years to work their way back up into contention. And it appears the Edmonton Oilers are on the road back following the similar path. That's just today's league. You're not going to win year after year after year after year. You have to build through the draft. It takes patience. It takes time. It can't be done like that, quickly anymore. It just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
So anyway, enough of our rant. But anyway, thanks for the email to that person. I'll pull up the email and I'll mention it in next week's podcast. I'll mention the person's name. Again, I apologize. I don't have that person's name right in front of me, but I did see the email and I wanted to comment about it, and I wanted to see your comments about it.
I may be able to more clearly speak about it next week as well.
Yeah, he went into more detail on it. So I got to pull up that email. I just didn't get a chance to pull it back up. After I saw it, I kind of set it aside, and because I think I was at work when I saw it, so I didn't have time to not only reply to the guy, but take it any further than just reading it. But I did read it, and we commented on it, and we're going to. So we encourage all of you to get involved by, getting in touch with us. Tweeting us is probably the best way, because a lot of times I'll retweet or I'll reply almost immediately. Since it's, you're limited to 140 characters, I can do that during my lunch break. So, but I can't respond to a long-winded email on my lunch break. So, all right, let's go ahead and wrap up the show then. We've gone through all of our spiel, and again, tune in next week. We'll have more of the Stanley Cup Final. We'll have more of the Calder Cup Final, and we'll probably even start taking a look ahead to next year. Probably the expansion draft. Might not be a bad time to take a look at our expansion draft again and see where we stand.
That'd be a good thing to do.
Yep. So, but stay tuned next week. We'll have more. And until then, I'll see you later, and have a good week, Steve.
You have a good week too, Wayne. Thank you.
You too. All right.
I didn't know about the email.
Yeah. I gotta